So today we are going to be taking a look into the Sculpt mode. Now this is going to be only for the DualShock and DualSense controllers, not for the Move controllers. I don't own any, so there might not be a video that I'll do for that. But the way that Sculpt mode works with a normal controller and the Move controllers is vastly different, so most, if not everything here will work a lot differently in that mode, but there should be some guides in-game and online that can help you with that. So, Sculpt mode is the very first one here in this yellow place here, so let's go in. And as you can see, it instantly gives us a cube, and we can see we've already got the shapes menu open. So let's just take a look into our tools first. So I am going to be ignoring undo, redo, move, clone and delete, because I already covered those in another video. I'll put a link down below probably, but they're very easy, and if you've been playing for a little while you might know how they work. If not, you can always watch that. But yeah, we'll talk about the rest of these because they work differently. So let's place down our cube and go back into our tools menu. Our first tool that we have is stretch. Now this allows us to, as it implies, grab a part of the object and stretch it. So yeah, as you can see, I'm stretching the cube like so. Lovely. Right, now we move on to something quite important, stamp shape and smear shape. So there are two main modes you can be when you are sculpting. There is smear mode, which is usually the people have for their default. You can change your default in here by going to dream shaping, and I believe it's in tools. Yeah, here I set mine to stamp, but you can set yours to smear if you want, but you can switch between them throughout the process. So what do they do? Well, let's talk about smear first. Basically you hold down your R2 or your X and then you move your controller around, and it's kind of like painting of sorts. You smear it around. I can do this and that guy, and do this and that guy, and do that and that guy. As you can see, it's created a lot of squares. So that's nice and all. But then we have stamp mode, and by the way, you can switch between the two by holding L1 and pressing triangle, as you can see. But now we are in stamp mode, and that means we can just press a button and stamp it. You can even hold the button and it doesn't smear around. You just place like that, like you're just stamping. I prefer to use that one, but smear does have its uses. Like you could use it for a landscape if you had the right textures in that. So next we have spray paint. So this is again a lot what it sounds like. You can go into your colors. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment, and you can select any color you like, and you can hold one of your buttons to draw like so. As you can see, I can draw what I want. I can select a different color if I want to, and I can just paint onto this thing. You want to be mindful because spray paint can get expensive, but yeah. And also it's relative to where the object is, so if I move this square around a little, as you can see, the zone I sprayed in doesn't occupy this whole space, as you can see. But I can resize the object and it'll be just fine. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, okay. Alright, also, we'll talk about more about this in a different video, but let's say you have a tint applied. Let's say I wanted to spray paint green. You cannot spray when there's a tint on, and also tinting a little bit will affect the colour quite a bit, as you can see. So if the object has a tint applied to it, just keep that in mind, because it could function a little bit differently. So now we are going to, what are we going to do? Looseness. We will come back to this in just a moment. Crop. Now, let's get a more interesting shape. Okay, so crop. What does crop do? Crop allows us to, basically, we select an area and press, and as you can see, we got rid of everything else, and we kept that part. Let's do it again, but the opposite. Let's just crop the bottom half. As you can see, it chopped off the top, and we're just left with this part. Now, cutout is similar, but instead of just getting rid of the other part, it just splits them from wherever you choose. So, well, we haven't done it quite right, but as you can see, we split it from where we selected it. We can split it in all sorts of ways, but that's essentially what it does. It cuts it into two different sculpts, and I can build onto this sculpt, and it'll be individual of this one. Now, that's all of the things that you'll find in your tools section. So now we're going to look at this little setting here, add and subtract. So, you have two other settings with your shape. You have add, which I just did. That's when you are placing your shapes, either when you're smearing or stamping. And then you have subtract. Now you can either enable that by clicking this, or switch between the two rather, or you can just press triangle. Subtract is the opposite. It will cut in the space using that shape instead of placing into the space with that shape. Now, over here, you'll see we have a little thing called Add+Subtract. So it sounds a bit confusing, but essentially, usually, as you see, I've selected the cube. I can go into Add and Subtract with the cube, and let's say I then go to this hexagon. Now I can go into Add and Subtract with the hexagon. Now, with Add+Subtract, we can have different shapes for the two different modes. So let's say I wanted my stamp to be a cube, but I want my subtract to be a circle or a sphere. As you can see, my subtract is a sphere, but my add is a cube. You can also assign different colors to them. So let's make my add green, like so. We've got our green cube, and then we can make our subtract red. As you can see, we go to green and we go to red, and we can add some green and add more red. So you can essentially hold two different shapes in that mode. Right, next you have your shapes menu, which you have seen a lot already. And it's very simple. You just have a bunch of shapes here that you can select from. The only exception being is that this one here, the curve, works a little bit differently. So if we hold L1 and then press square, we can edit it. And you'll see we have some options here. We'll talk about these later because they will appear in the rest of the modes as well. And this just lets you stamp it afterwards. But anyway, you grab. Oh my gosh. Okay, you can't undo this, by the way, for some reason. But you grab the little arrow things and stretch it out, and you get 4 of each, and you can bend them like this. And then you'll see on the ends of your tubes, it has these little arrow things that look different to these arrows. Now you grab onto these and pull either towards or away, and as you see, it makes the tube thinner or thicker. We can do the same on this side, like so. So yeah, that one works a bit differently to the rest, but the rest all kind of work the same. And also, the curve, the stretch tool doesn't work on, so keep that in mind. Now, we have our colors menu, which we talked about already. So that's how you change the color of the shape you selected, and also the one that you're in subtract mode. As you can see, it holds that color. And you'll also use it for your spray paint tool, which we talked about. But you'll notice something a little bit funny. So all of these are just fine. But, well, firstly, let's talk about this. So let's select this. So if we look carefully, our shape is cycling through these different colors. That means when we place it, we can place it frozen in that color. So it's a little color cycling through all of the ones from this yellow section. If you go into a spray paint tool with one of these cycles selected, and we slowly start spraying, you'll see that it's spraying in the cycle that we have created. So we can make some nice little gradients over here. So there's that. But then we have this funny little looking thing here that you might have seen me use a little bit earlier. This is the color picker. So when you enter the color picker, it's a bit daunting, but it will bring up this little menu, and your imp will automatically be given an eyedropper tool. So let me just fix this. Let me create another object, and let's make this object, I don't know, this green. Let's pretend we didn't make that object. We can get we could click on the color picker tool, and then go away. We hover over here and click on it. As you can see, we've took the color of that shape, and I can do that again to take the color of this shape. But you'll see that's not everything here. You'll also see that we have a little color wheel. So when we use the eyedropper tool, you'll see just there, it's taken this color. Now you'll see that we have the option to save this color. And as you've seen, we've made our very own palette of sorts. We've made a color. But we don't have to just use the eyedropper tool. You'll see we have a little wheel over here, and we could make any color that we wish. For example, this isn't a color you can find normally, and let's say I really want to use this color, you press the add. Let's say you made a color that you don't like, you can always just delete it. So there's that. But sorry, okay, so you'll notice here we have a thing called mixed, and we've got a pure color here. We can grab that and put it in here. And then let's make a different pure color over here. Let's make one that's like this. We can grab that and slot it in. You'll see that as a gradient, that'll be important, but slot it in how you like. We can turn it around and such, and choose what way it's going. Let's add one more color in. But we can now save this mixture, and as you'll see, it will do the cycling thing that happened earlier, although we've made it cycle at a very slow pace. Let's fix, yeah, see, you can spin it to make it faster. See, now it's very, very fast, so depending on how fast you grab it and spin it will affect how quickly it cycles through the colors. So there's the color picker. Now we have the flecks. So in Dreams you have these painterly things, which make them a bit easier to see. You see those little like square things? We call those flecks, and I'm not going to go into every single one of them, but there are a lot to choose from, like this grass-looking one. That's a bit hard to see, actually. Let me try and make this as easy as possible. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's much better, okay. So, essentially, the flex is just like the pattern of the fur. That's the best way I can explain it. But, yeah, you can select a bunch of different ones, like this one. This one could be good for, like, water or snow. Or this one. And then this is the default one. And, yeah, so you can just pick a bunch of different styles. You can change them in style mode, but that is a topic for another day. Right, now we have finishes. So you can alter finishes with in the tweak menu or in coat mode, but you can set one while you're sculpting already. So you have your default, the plastic, just like more shiny, and then a actually shiny one, a rough, which is less reflective, metal, a wax, which is like more transparent, not transparent, but rubbery, I guess, shiny metal, shiny wax, which is just the wax but very shiny, as you can see, or very shiny in fact, rough metal, which is the metal but it doesn't reflect, and then the rough wax, which is like the wax but it doesn't reflect. So those are pretty nice. You can set one as a preset, but we'll go back to default. Now we have the guides, which, let's see, so quite a lot of them are different, so we will talk about those. Okay, so first of all we have surface snap. So what is the surface snap? Well, as you can see, let's just get rid of that. I can move this around wherever I want. But let's say I did this. Now let's say I was trying to sculpt onto something. Rather than free roaming like this, surface snap will make the object snap to that. I'm not just holding my controller there, as you can see. It is forcing me to snap to this surface, same over here. And if I place and make it smaller, you'll see that it keeps snapping on top, as you can see. Then we have Tentacle Snap, which is a bit more complex. Right, so basically, with Tentacle Snap, it will allow you to snap to a surface. So right now we can snap to whatever surface we want. Let's snap to this one, and then it will just keep us snapped onto this one, wherever. I'm not doing the best examples here, but yeah, I'm not too sure about the differences, to be honest. Okay, grid snap. So grid snap, as it says on the tin, that will summon a grid for you to move across, which makes it more precise. You can make it finer, which means you can move it in more ways, or you can make it greater, where the grid is much more bigger, like this. Right, now we have stay upright. So as you can see, I can tilt this and stuff, but this will keep it upright. As you can see, I can still turn it, but it doesn't flip. I can even try it, and it doesn't work. This has a little subcategory called right angles, so you can snap to all the right angles of the shape. This would be better to show with something like a K. So with just the, where is it? This, as you can see, we can still spin it and all, but this will allow us to rotate it like this. We can put it to all of its right angles. So rather than being like this, like, is that enough? we can just do that, and we can see that that is indeed enough. Right, next we have quite a helpful one called the mirror. So, when you go into mirror and to place your object, you'll see this little laser line thing. You'll also see, now that on each side of this little ray line thing, there are 2 cubes but only 1 imp, and you'll see that it's reflecting in the exact same way. And that's all the mirror tool is. Every single thing that you do on either side will be reflected onto the other side, so this is helpful for being very precise if you want to be such. So that is a very nice tool. There is also a clipped mirror. Essentially, with clipped mirror, any part of your work that goes on the other side of the mirror just gets cut off. So, as you saw there, these cubes, when they go on each other's side, they get cut off. So let's place a bit here. And so our imp is starting from here, but when we try to move these shapes onto this side, you'll see that the shape just will not stamp. So this, I don't really know where you'd use this, but this could be useful for something, I'm sure. Ooh, like maybe making a spinal cord. Okay. You'll also have seen we have hide mirror. So, as you can see, we have the laser thing. We can just click this and it gets rid of the laser thing. But it's kind of helpful to have it there, but if you really need to, you can make it invisible to you. Next, we have the Kaleidoscope. So, what this does is it creates duplicates of your object, and you'll see the little number here. The amount that are created is shown there, and you can make more by going with this, make less by going like that, and they move a little bit like this. So let's try to get them like that. As you can see, we can rotate them, and they all rotate a little bit strangely. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you just mess around with the tool a little, that could probably help you. And also, when you stamp it down, you pull the shape out. Okay, this is probably a bad way to visualize it. So we stamped it down in a bit of a mess. Let's move it out a bit. And as you'll see, all these shapes, when I tilt it like this, they all kind of point inwards, like so, like this. And then we could rotate it this way, and as you can see, they're all doing kind of the same-ish thing. And these are all regarded as the same shape, so when you resize and move these, they all move at the same time. Right, so now we have precise move, which essentially, usually we can just grab it and go like this, but that's not very precise. With precise move, it will restrict you into just moving like up and down, maybe moving across only, maybe moving both up and across, and it even gives you a load of lines which show you how you're moving, and it will also control the way that you rotate, and it even shows you the angles and stuff, so that's very useful. Local space will take into account the way that the object was facing. As you can see, you can do this like that, so yeah, that's what that does. Grid snap, this works a little bit like the grid snap tool. I don't think we can take it off, or I guess we can. Yeah, I'm not too sure the difference between all these, but the one you'll probably be using is just this one, yeah. Okay, now we have studio lighting. All this does is it will disable all of these gadgets. So as you saw, it changed the background to white. Let's set the background to red. And then let's set this light to really bright. And let's increase the... Actually, let's do this. So as you can see, we've done some very weird stuff to our scene. And now our blocks might be hard to see. But this allows us to just go like that. And now all the visuals are normal. The light has been turned off, and these aren't doing anything now. So that's all studio lighting is. And it doesn't show like this in play mode, so keep that in mind. The floor just shows you where in your scene is the center of the scene. So when you're making an asset, you'll want to make it close to the origin as possible. If you made it all the way over here, when someone places it, let's pretend that we just grabbed it. And we went, okay, stamp. We're like, oh, where is it? Oh, it's over there. Yeah, that's why that happens sometimes. You want it to have it near the origin. Okay, and then we have snap points. So I have no idea how the snap points work. I'll have to revise these because I have no clue what these do. So, yeah, you'll have to find out about that somewhere else. I've never used them. I've never even heard of them. So, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but we'll have to come back to that someday. Anyway, so now we have all the guides. Let's go to show and hide. In fact, all of this is the same, so I will not talk about these too much. Some of these appear in this show and hide. So once we get around to this, you can see what those do. But to save a little bit of time, we're just not going to talk about these because they all do the same thing. Right, so we've covered everything up here, but we have these three little things. So these two are relatively simple. Hide everything else, so let's make a little mess over here. We have whatever. Let's do it in this sculpture. And let's say I click this. This will hide everything else except the sculpture that we are sculpting onto. So everything else in the scene just go away. So that's good. Start new sculpture. Now you could just very well go out like this and then do that like I've been doing. This does the same thing, just switches you straight into doing a new sculpture. This seems to be slightly faster than the way I was doing it. Right. Now we move on to the edit shape. So as you can see, some new things have appeared. Now, some of these things will not appear during smear shape, and actually I think the only thing that does not appear during smear shape is the blend. So yeah, that seems to be the only thing that's missing. But yeah, okay, so we are going to stay in stamp shape for now. I'm just going to put on this, there we go. Okay, so controlled scale, that you can't turn that off, so I don't really know why that's there. Oh wait, no, I know why. Okay, sorry, ignore me. I'm just being stupid. Right. So, controlled scale just means your imp will just, there's some predetermined places where your imp just grabs the objects, like so. But you can switch it with this, with the grip. So what that will do is put a little grid thing on your shape. It will be different for each shape, but you can basically select a point. Let's select this corner here, And what that does is that changes where your imp is grabbing the shape. Now I'm grabbing it from the corner, and the way I rotate it acts a bit differently. So now I'm grabbing it from the corner. So that's very nice and all, but we're going to stay on here. Next is the blend, and as I said, oh, my shape is a bit wrong. As I said, you cannot use blend while you are in smear mode. It just disappears. So you have to be in stamp mode in order for you to be able to use the blend. Now, what exactly does the blend do? So let me place 2 cubes. As you can see, they just stand like next to each other. What the blend does is it blends shapes together like this. As you can see, it's mixing in. Might be better to use the sphere. As you can see, sphere's just in there, but if we put on a little bit of blend, you can see that it's being more like it's like smudging. And if we really turn up the blend, it will be much more of an intense effect. Make this cube look very squishy using that. Now we have another thing here called hard blend, and what this does is it will combine both of the shapes like normal, but also the point at which they combine will look a bit like this. It's a bit hard to explain, but as you can see, there's like that little squishy thing here again, but the square and the cube and the sphere are still perfectly shaped. So you could do something like this if you wanted to. That's something you could do. Right, so looseness. Remember I talked about the looseness here and I said we will come back to that later. Now we will be talking about it. So typically with the looseness amount, you can set the amount of looseness by default when you have your object, when you've selected your shape here. As you can see, we can change the looseness, which is basically how fluffy it looks. Then we have varying looseness, which when we turn that on, as you can see, if you look carefully, there are some bigger specks and there's some smaller specks. If we turn that off, all the specks are either big or they're small, mainly. But if you turn varying looseness on, some of the specks will be bigger than others. Now, this is where the looseness tool comes in. So, by default, it looks as though it's not doing anything, and we can click and it just doesn't. So, we go into here with our looseness tool selected, and we have a few different options. We will come back to these and these, and we've already done these, so it's mainly this we're going to talk about, and you can increase the looseness. Now, as you can see, we can select parts of the object to make loose, like so. So we don't have to do all of it, we can just do part of it. Soft blend on this allows you to, well, blend these, blend it in, as so. You can see it blending, rather than it just being, oh, half of it is fluffy, half of it's not. So, now we come to, hello. Now we come to the hole. So, the hole will not be available on all shapes, such as, or it is, apparently. I don't know how that works. I don't think it works on every shape. Yeah, as you can see, this thing doesn't have the hole. Anyway, so what the hole does is it's very simple. The more you increase it, the wider this hole that it creates for you gets. And I think you can only use it on prisms, if I'm correct. Oh my goodness, where's it gone? Hello? Okay, that's a bit odd. Okay, I don't know what I've done to my scene. There we go. Anyway. Yeah, so it's best used on prisms. and we can, yeah. So finally we have this thing called section, and again this isn't available on all the shapes, but this basically allows you to cut the shape into you have the whole, a half, and then a quarter or a fourth. So yeah, that's all that does. And then we can take that, we can stamp it like this, so we have some more interesting shapes. So that's all you really need to know for your sculpt mode. Of course, I left out this one. I don't know what this one does. I'll try and see what it does, but you don't. I've never needed to use that, so you probably wouldn't need either. But yeah, so that's sculpt mode for you, and I hope you will be able to use these tools to your advantage. So I'll see you next time.